As it happens, life is hard. Yes, I feel the need to share my story. But why? Why tell all about oneself? Because some people might find it helpful. Life is not always easy, nor is it always pretty. This is the story about me. Born to Welsh father and South African mother in South Africa, my parents had separated before they even knew they were pregnant with me. They tried to make it work, but it didn't. Around a year later, they divorced. My father remarried another South African woman, and my mother married an alcoholic, abusive Italian man. My father had twin boys, but one died stillborn, and later they went on to have another little girl. And my mother had a boy. Growing up was good and bad. I lived with my mom, but when she couldn't handle me, my brother, her mother, and the mental, physical and verbal abuse of my stepfather, she asked my dad to take me in. My mother moved around South Africa while my stepdad tried one and the next thing, claiming it would make their fortunes. It never did, and eventually they moved back to his mother's house in Italy in 1999. Where they lived for the next 9 to 10 years. I, on the other hand, lived with my super strict stepmother and my dad. I was bullied at school, was slow in maths, brilliant in English, history, geography, Afrikaans, and I was the teacher's pet. But daydreaming cost me big time. I was always amazing on the telephone, had good manners, but had very few friends. High school was better. I was only there for 6 months, but I made a best friend. I loved astrology and especially accountancy. When my dad told me we were moving to the UK, it was because he'd got a huge promotion, and living in a third world country was pretty dangerous, so they thought that it would be best for all of us, especially as kids. I was 13 and a half at the time. I visited my mother the summer of '99 in Italy and then moved to England. It was August the 13th. I was bullied and made fun of from day one. I tried to get in with some chavas, by claiming I smoked, which I didn't. But slowly I made friends. However, I was always the freak and the geek and the foreigner, the fat one with the braces and the glasses and the frizzy hair. In the winter of 99-2000, I visited my mum in Italy again. It was minus 15 degrees and I stayed indoors and ate good homemade Italian food, and I gained weight. When I got home, my dad and my stepmother jabbed fun in a serious way at how much weight I gained. In the summer of 2000 I went back and now I was 14. I tried really hard to keep my weight down because obviously I was now 14, I was starting to get conscious, but I still managed to put on some weight. But it wasn't until I was getting out the car just home from the airport and walking up the garden path, and I was saying to my dad, like, oh, I haven't like put on as much weight this time, have I? And they still said, oh, I can still see you've been on holiday though. And basically from that day on, I've been on a diet. I lost the first few pounds that I put on, and as it dropped off, I really loved it. I was never really fat in the first place. The heaviest I ever weighed was 8.8 stone, which is about 56 kilograms, I think. As the pounds dropped off, I became a different person. Withdrawn, over-exercising, avoiding food, throwing up, cutting myself, starving. I was depressed and angry. At my lowest weight, I reached 7.4 stone, and that was in about 8 months. I lost that much. I was about a week away from hospitalisation, they said, when they diagnosed me with anorexia nervosa with bulimic tendencies. I decided then, because my family and I were arguing so much, to move to Italy to be with my mother to recover. But I didn't really want to recover, and after 8 months I couldn't take living with my stepdad anymore. One night while trying to eat through his abuse, threats of death and smashing my mother's face in, I had to leave the supper table to just go upstairs and calm down. He hadn't told her to fuck off or go fuck herself yet, but I was pacing my room, I was trying not to cry, and I swore that if he told her to fuck off, I was gonna go downstairs and just fuck him up. And he did. And I heard him, and as soon as the words left his mouth, an utter rage just consumed me. And in all my hate, I just grabbed the first thing I could, which ended up being a pair of weights, and ran downstairs and attacked him. He got the biggest fright of his life. He went for me. My mother got in between us. He tried to make me drop the weights. I did. One ended up breaking my mother's toe. And then he punched me in the side of the face and the back while I tried to get away from him. We went to the police, but they could do nothing because apparently because I provoked the attack. It was my fault, and it was just lucky that I was 17 and not 18, because if I was and he wanted to press charges, he could have. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I moved back to the UK. I finished school, I had a lot of GCSE work to catch up on, 8 months of it, and I did a year of sixth form. It wasn't for me at all. I left and then started to do a modern apprenticeship in hairdressing. I worked in Newcastle and qualified, and one day me and my stepmother had a bit of an altercation, a little bit of an argument, and I heard my stepmother say to my dad, "When's she going to grow up and get out?" Her exact words. I was only 20 years old, so because we never got on and I overheard that, I just went straight upstairs. I packed everything in my room and I moved out the next day, and I've never looked back, actually. And I'd always been thinking on what my mother said. You know, she said if she could move away, she would. Anyway, I lived with a friend for a month. It took me 2 weeks to find a flat and then 2 weeks for them to fix it up for me. And basically I lived there for a month by myself until my mother had enough money, and she then moved in with me, brought my brother into this shitty ground floor flat in Gateshead, and plans were made for her to skip the country. It was the 29th of July 2006, and it was the happiest day of my life when I went down to that train station to pick her up. My stepdad realised that she had left and rang me as I was on my way to the train station, and he was crying. He claimed he loved us. He said that he wanted nothing more to be a happy family. I've never spoken to him since until about a couple of days ago, and I still can't bring myself to speak to him. He will never steal another moment of my family's life, and he will never lay another finger on my family. My brother now does talk to him because it is his father, and I will never ever put his father down in front of him. That is entirely up to him. He has mended his relationship, and I respect that. As far as my eating disorder goes, I've never gotten over it, and I don't think I ever will. I don't think I really want to. It's too much part of my life. I have learned from everything that I've gone through, and I thank God, for whatever God there is, for the life that I have had, or I would not be here right now with the people that I am right now. And I would not also have had that experience in the past to teach me for the future. Life is tough. I do get depressed. I miss my home country every day. I think about home all the time. I'm a very emotional person, as you can tell. I'm a very obsessive person, and I can get very attached to things, and it's hard for me, but I think if there's something that life can offer, it's positivity. I don't think that I will ever be perfectly happy, but life could always be a lot worse. Life is what you make of it, and as far as the understanding of the world we live in goes, we only have one chance.